Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Her Expat Life's YouTube channel. I'm Marmole. I'm currently the Chief Operating Officer at Her Expat Life, and I will be your host for today. As you probably know, we are a firm that helps women around the globe advance their global lifestyle. We are delighted to welcome Gabriela de la Cruz today, who is from our partners Entre Trámites, and she is a top specialist on the tax season, because you already know that if you're abroad and you have real estate abroad, the tax season is coming and you will need some advice to fill in some of the returns, especially if you live in Spain. So, welcome, Gabriela. Can you tell us a little bit more on what do you do on your everyday basis at Entre Trámites?
Yeah, that's right. So hello guys. I'm Gabriela. I'm a tax expert in Tetramites. Normally, I specialize in double taxation. I work really with so many expats, so I know about immigration, taxes, double taxation, so beneficial for taxes. So just trying to help people that they're planning to arrive to Spain, how to optimize their taxes and all those type of situations. So yeah, that is my job here, just helping you with the things that you need.
Fantastic. So we are delighted to having you here today, because at Her Expert Life, we have people that uh, want to know what are the biggest tax changes coming in 2025 and how they might affect them, you know?
Yeah, I know, and that's really a normal question for me. And is that each year, you know, that Spain is an amazing country for living. That's really true. But when we are talking about taxes, it's a little bit like a strange just to understand where are going to be taxes applying, how it's going to affect you, and all those type of like of things that are going to happen. So I think that the biggest change is just to understand the taxes, understand the deadlines, the important dates. Okay, if you are planning to travel to Spain, please just like create a plan. Okay, first I need to understand how to arrive, how to live in Spain, how to pay taxes in Spain, what are the important dates for Spain, and even that in Spain the law is changing yearly. So last year you could present taxes and you could receive some benefits, and this year they just disappear, and they could create new beneficiaries or depending on if you move to Catalonia to Madrid, what type of changes, what type of new things are going to be happening. So it's really important to understand where are you and how just to arrange those type of things. And if you know that in Spain, they are changing, for example, last year we present taxes for non-resident in June, in April, now we do it in January. How? They just do it. So it's just, there are things that we need to understand quick.
Yes, that's super, super important and valuable. Thank you so much. And what are the tax implications for self employed individuals and business owners? If I am one, how can I optimize my taxes legally as a freelancer or entrepreneur in Spain?
Well, the first thing is to understand if you are recently arriving to Spain, because there are some benefits that can that you can take it if it's the first time that you are arriving to Spain, or if you are even a Spanish citizen, if you were living in Spain the last 5 years, and then I'm talking about Beckham Law, and because that is like the first benefit that I need to understand. The second thing is to understand what type of incomes and how much you're gonna be earning. Just to understand if being self-employed can be the best idea for you, or could be just create a company and just take some benefits for that. So obligations are really similar. The difference is when how to register self-employed is easier. I mean, in 1 2 days you are registered as self-employed and you just start paying some things. Company is gonna have some notaries processes that are gonna take more time. But about obligations, you have quarterly taxes that you present on April, July, October, and January. You need to present the taxes for the VAT, depending on where are your clients, for example. And if you are the owner of the company and you are the director, or if you are a freelancer, you need to pay a quote for the social security, and that quote normally for the first year sometimes is 88 euros around. Well, this year is 88. That's something that is one of the things that you need to know if you are going to be autonomous or you are going to open a company, because this type of benefits, like the flat rate, you need to apply at the beginning of the application. So if you register as self-employed, you need to do it at the beginning. So there are some things that I really advise. Hey, if you want to do an autonomous, or if you want to create a set up a business, or just do any type of entrepreneur activity, just just try to figure out what type of things you need to do before register, because there are some things that if you first do the fat, I mean, if you register and then you don't know what are gonna be doing with that, could be that you cannot arrange some benefits. So the first thing is just to just stop, organize your plans. Okay, I'm going to find a consultation. There are several free consultations that you can just find on Google, that you can find with us, and we can explain you before all those types of information. So you pay quarterly taxes, and autonomous pay income tax also, and income sometimes pay some income tax advances in the quarterly. The difference for companies is the companies pay corporate taxes and annual accounts and some type of things. What is the how to identify how to benefit? It's depending on what type of company you're gonna create. So beneficials like deductions for expenses, if you're gonna invest in other country in other company, if you're gonna get the Beckham Law, and if you are a younger person, if you are an oldest person. So those type of things, depending of each person, are gonna be like beneficial for the person.
Okay, and does it change if you are a digital nomad?
Um, yeah, but sometimes you know that the digital nomad have two ways. I mean, if you have the visa, that is like how they call it. There are two ways: being autonomous or being employed, remote employee. So let's talk about autonomous. That's not gonna change. I mean, in Spain, if you're autonomous, it's the same as if you are a Spanish citizen and you become an autonomous. You get the same obligation like presenting taxes, all those type of things. The difference is created when you apply as an employee. Why? Because you can get the Beckham's Law, so that could give you a benefit to just paying 24%. I know that there is a like in that misunderstanding of the information of the digital nomad visa, because they say that if you take this visa, you are gonna take 24% for taxes, but that's not true at all. If you're an employee, yes, but if you are self-employed, Beckham Law said if you're self-employed, you cannot get this benefit. So yeah, it's different for this type of for people.
Mm-hmm. So that is really important to take into account. Uh, and I guess it's also different for how are savings, investments, and cryptocurrencies taxed in Spain? Are there any advantages on those or not?
Well, are gonna be some advantage depending in the city and the place that you are living. You know that Spain have different communities or different regions, like some people they call it, and each region have their own law. I mean, Spain has a law, but each region have a different law. So if you have, for example, if you are living in Andalusia, well, that could be good for you if you have so many savings or investments out of Spain, or if you have cryptocurrency. Why? Because Andalusia is free for wealth tax. Well, they say it. If your wealth tax is less than 1 million, you don't need to present and pay. If they are more than 2 million, you need to present but don't pay. But if they are more than 3 million, you need to pay. That's for example Andalusia. But Catalonia say no. Catalonia say, or Catalonia, Barcelona, Tarragona, all those type of places, they say, if you are living here, our absent amount of sample for taxes is just 500,000. So if your cryptocurrency savings, properties, investments out of Spain or even in Spain are more than 500,000, you will need to pay for the difference. I mean, you have an exemption, but also you need to pay some taxes. So it's really depending on where are you that you will need to present, and the wealth tax is not the only tax that you need to declare. You are involved with the income tax, you're involved in wealth tax, and sometimes the 720 model. I don't know if the people know about 720 models. We are like in the month that we present this tax. It's just an informative model that we present for people just saying to Spain, hey, I'm here living in Spain, but I have some things, some assets out of Spain that can just be more than 50,000 of euros. So if you have more than 50,000 of euros, out of Spain, make sure that you present the 720. So those are like the three obligations that you have in Spain, and they are like the most important for you. And it's gonna be depending where are you, just understand if you have or not to pay.
Thank you for this valuable information. So let's dive into real estate then. Because that's a whole different issue, right? As well. So, what happens if I live in Spain? I have real estate abroad, and how wealth tax gets into all of this?
I really the same. So it's gonna be well similar to the thing that I was saying. It's gonna be depending where you're living. So one of the things that I recommend to my clients when I have consultation is if you are planning to live in Spain, choose a good place for living. And depending on what type of the community, some people they think yeah decide to live in Galicia, in Murcia, and the Andalusia just because the taxes are could be better. But if you have real estate out of Spain, you need to think, okay, I will need to pay wealth tax in Spain. So, and that is something really hard sometimes because there are countries that they don't have even wealth tax or property tax. So for them, the wealth tax is something new, and they don't understand why. If it's your property, you need to pay taxes for it. But yeah, you need to do it. And well, it's just to understand that the Spain have their own laws, and we need just to present and pay taxes if we want to live here.
Okay. So, what are the things to consider regarding the tax return if I own property in Spain or if I rent a property?
Well, if you have a let's say a property in Spain, we are not talking about just rent, just having a property in Spain. It's gonna be depending on when did you buy that property. If you buy that property before 2013, you got some beneficials like some deductions on that property. But if you let's say that you buy this property last year, well, the law changed a little bit, so we cannot apply deductions for those type of properties for income tax. For wealth tax, it's gonna be like the same. Something important that said the wealth tax, and is that it's important to know if you are living in that property, because if you are living in that property for more than 2 years, it's like your home. We're not talking about house, it's your home because you are living here and it's your place. That place have some deductions for wealth tax. What say it? Normally you receive an exemption of 300,000 of euros plus the normal exemption if you are living in that property. So for wealth tax you get some deductions. For income tax, it depends on when did you buy that property. And if you are renting that property, okay, so you have two properties. One, you're living there, and other, you are renting that property. And you are renting that property for a family, and that is a home for that family. Okay, so you can receive some deductions because you are renting your property. What type of deductions? Some people say 60 or just 50% of deductions for your income tax. So it's really important if you are renting the property, needs to be for habitual life. I mean, if it's a commercial or tourist, it's not gonna work. But if it's habitual life, there is gonna be applying 50% normally for deductions for income tax if you are renting your own property.
Okay. And so you mentioned that it changes a little bit and depending on what year did you buy your property. So what if I come in the middle of the year? Like how will my taxes look like?
Well, normally something really important to understand is like the fiscal residency and the number of days that you need to be in Spain or keep in Spain just to be considered a fiscal resident. So the law specific says that well the fiscal year in Spain is between January to December. And I need to clarify because there are some countries that is April to April, there is June, March to March. So Spain is January to December. So if you keep in Spain between January to December 183 days, you are gonna be considered tax resident and you need to pay as a normal resident. But let's say that you arrived last year and you arrived in October and you become an autonomous, you immediately you get the obligation to present income tax. Your taxes are not going to be equal or similar to a person who is living in Spain for more than 5 years, let's say. Why? You, as a non-resident, you will pay or 19% or 24%. How to identify when you pay 19% and when you pay 24% is dependent of the country that you live before moving to Spain. So if you were living in US and you move to Spain in October, in this example, and you become autonomous or you start working, for example, in January that you need to present your taxes, you are gonna pay 24%. But if you were living in Italy, okay, you're gonna living in Italy, become an autonomous in October, you will need to pay 19%. What is the difference? If you were living in a European country, as a non-resident, you pay 19%. But if you're living in a non-European country, you will need to pay 24%. So that's the big difference if you are considered non-resident or resident and where you were living before arriving to Spain.
Okay. Well, then I guess we can move on to, for example, what, because all of this seems very complicated. So, what
Mhm.
if I make a mistake?
It's gonna be really. I think that the answer that you're gonna hear more is it depends. So it really depends when you figure out that you commit a mistake. So I'm gonna be just giving some examples just to understand because could be like a little bit easy to understand. We are arriving to the fiscal period. So let's say that one person, let's say we're in April. That person presented taxes on April and on May, I mean that the period that you have to present taxes is between April to June. So we have 3 months to prepare and present your taxes. So this person present his taxes on April, and on May, in the ending of May, he figured out that he forget to add some information to the income tax. If you do it within the time that is the fiscal period to present taxes, it's not going to be a big problem. You just need just to log into the website if you do it by yourself, or talk with your accountant or with your gesture, just to fix the information and present it again. And just you would if you need to pay more or less, that's going to be normal. The issue is going to be when you like fix your income tax after the fiscal time for presented. So let's say that you presented on May and then on August you figured out that you commit a mistake and you forget to present some incomes that you receive that could increase the amount that you're gonna need to pay taxes. There are some situations. One, if tax agency know that you have to present it and you didn't do it, and they notify you. If they send you a notification saying that, hey, you commit a mistake, you need to fix your income tax, that is gonna be a little problem because normally they are gonna put some penalties or some like interests because you just commit a mistake and you need to fix the taxes and also pay a different amount just to because you commit a mistake. How much is gonna be? It really depends. If you need to pay taxes, the amount could be more. But if you were like free for taxes or a percent for taxes, you need to present, but your percent could be. Sometimes they don't penalize you or they just apply a small percent, just 1% or something like that. The good thing is when you figure out by yourself that you need to fix this tax and the tax agency is like normal with that. They don't know about it, so they never notify you. You can present the tax, you can fix the problem, and depending on if you have to pay or not taxes, or I mean, in the fixing the information, They could penalize you in 1% or 2%. It's depending when you are facing this information. But if you commit the mistake this year and you fix the mistake the next year, it's gonna take us some time like 15% of penalties, according to the amount that you will need to pay. So it's really important to figure out and double and just doing this double check if everything is okay before presenting the taxes, because many situations can happen if you do it on time, if you do it after the time, if tax agency notifies you. So it happens different type of things.
Okay, so no, that means that can I correct some of the mistakes if I make it, or or not?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, you can do it. You have like the opportunity to do it in on time or out of the time, out of the deadline. You can do it. You just need to make sure that if you're gonna do just fix the mistake, do it once. I mean, you present it, you commit a mistake, you know it, and you fix it. But if you commit a mistake, you fix it, then you figure out that you commit all the mistake in the same tax. Be careful, because we know that tax agency in Spain and in any country, they are really attentive for those situations. If you present a tax and you say that you don't need to pay taxes, and then you present a tax, fix the tax and say that you need to pay, it's gonna create some like conflicts, and that's gonna make like just the tax agency just ask, "Hey, what are you doing?" So just make sure that do it in the first time, please.
Okay. Well, I hope our audience notices and takes note of this. Um, then let's move on to what happens when you are retired and you're receiving a pension or passive income from abroad, which might be the quite similar case, right?
Okay, so there are some like concepts in first. That's really funny. It's gonna depend in what country you are coming from and how is being the double taxation agreement. So, because there are some agreements that say that if you are receiving a pension, for example, it's just an example, if you are receiving a pension for Italy, and the double taxation agreement say that if you receive it from Italy, you don't need to pay in Spain, and if Spain is agree with that, you don't need to pay. But sometimes you need to pay. Why? The pension is taken as a income equal or similar to the salary. So if you're receiving a pension, you need to present taxes. That is the first thing. And the second thing is if you're receiving passive incomes. The passive incomes are taxable in Spain. There are some rules that you need to understand on saving on passive incomes. They say that if you receive more than 1,000 in bank interests, more than 1,000 in dividends, in capital gains, on those type of things, you need to declare it in Spain. So if you are receiving any type of those type of things, you need to pay it. What is the good news? That the salary have one bracket, and the passive incomes have a different table for taxes. There is the general base and the saving base. The general base is for salary, for pension, for rent. But if you are receiving, let's say, a dividends, well, there is a saving base. What is the advantage on it? Spain have taxes divided by brackets. So you start paying 18% and you finish paying 28%. This is in the saving base. What is the advantage? The general base is between 19% to sometimes 50%. So if we read, it's like the general base is really high, could be, and the saving base is really less. It's just like the middle. So this is a good thing if you are say having savings. It's really important to understand in what country you are receiving the pension. For example, let's talk about US. That is one of the like countries that some people they come to Spain. If you are receiving a Roth IRA, if you are receiving an IRA, a 401k, those type of incomes, I know that in US could be a percent of taxes when you are receiving the money, but in Spain no. If you are receiving payments for those type of incomes, and even the social security, pension. You need to pay for those type of things in Spain. But this different. For example, if you work for the government and you are retired now, well, people that they are receiving incomes for the government, that pension is absent for taxes in Spain. That is according to the double taxation agreement. So it's if you are coming from UK and you receive an ISA, for example, okay, you need to pay in Spain also that those type of incomes. So you need to understand what country you're from, because example in US, if you are living or not there, you need to pay taxes there. So just understand where you're gonna pay first, how to do it, when or where do I gonna to apply double taxation benefits, because if I pay in one country, I don't want to pay twice. So why? So just to understand those type of things. But yeah, it's like that.
Definitely. And does it change if I have, let's say, an account in different banks? Does the bank has have any influence in it?
Yeah, but yeah, banks are. But there is something that some people they don't like understand, or sometimes they don't believe that in one of the I think that is the first article in every double taxation agreement that they say that any country can ask to other country what is our resident doing in that country. So they can know if you have bank accounts in the country, if you are doing in Spain in those type of situations. Savings are not taxed in Spain, but interests on savings are taxed in Spain. So if you have bank accounts out of Spain, make sure that if you are having interests and they are more than 1,000, you need to pay for that in Spain. If you have it in Spain or out of Spain, it doesn't matter where is the bank account. You need to pay if you receive it. It's different, for example, if you have a bank account in, let's say, US, and you have a bank account in Spain, and you are transferring money because it's your own money. Well, depending on how much you are transferring, depending because sometimes you need to notify to tax agency that you are transferring more than 10,000, for example. But transfers are not taxed. But again, just be careful on those type of movements. And if you are gonna transfer a high amount, just make sure that you are gonna be like depending on what you need to do before moving those type of incomes.
Okay, well, thank you so much for all this advice. So, what people need to do if they want to know more or contact you?
Well, I think that in the you can take a free consultation with me or when one of my colleagues also. And if your case is really specific, just could be just you can send me an email. You can just hire back consultation. You can like just have my link so you can just hear to your people. Just to if you need something, just put a good description because sometimes I need to prepare the information before having the consultation. But yeah, just have a free consultation with me and we are gonna be trying to solve all your concerns. And if it's like more specific, well, we can figure out what you're gonna be doing with that.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. We will leave a link in the description so that people can make it easy through our memberships to apply for a consultation with you. So I hope everyone benefited from this episode, that there were a lot of good insights. And remember, if you like us, please hit the subscribe button. Hopefully, see you in our next episode here at Her Expat Life. Cheers!
Bye.